CBS Evening News with Harry Reisner, substituting for Walter Cronkite, and David Shoemaker in Philadelphia, Ike Pappas in Chicago, Marvin Kalb in Washington, Morton Dean in Brooklyn, New York, Bruce Morton in Fort Lee, Virginia, and Bud Collins at Forest Hills Tennis Club.
Good evening. Vice President Humphrey today predicted the withdrawal of some American troops from Vietnam late this year or early next, unless there are some unusual developments. He commented during a question and answer session with students in Philadelphia, where he opened a coast-to-coast campaign tour. Humphrey's speech there dealt primarily with civil rights, but he was heckled by some peace demonstrators.
We have a choice between the America of the old era or the America of a new day. In 1960 and again in 1964, the American people asked us to get this country moving again. And this plaza today is named after that young man, brilliant and courageous, that reminded us that peace and freedom are not cheap, and that we are destined to live the balance of our lives in danger and peril and challenge. John Kennedy saw the reality, and people in the suburbs are asking, must we be walled off from the people who live in the cities? And people in the cities are asking, where are the schools, the jobs, the neighborhoods that my children need? How shall we answer those questions? Well, my friends, you can't answer them by the kind of clack and noise that you hear here today. You answer it by reason. You answer it by action. Somebody will burn this country down and build things up their own way. So we are faced on the one hand with third-party extremism, and we're faced on the other in the Republican Party with the age-old coalition of the conservative Republican and the Dixiecrats, the Nixons and the Strom Thurmonds, who prefer to remain silent when it comes to human rights and human opportunity. I say that this national election must be a referendum on your part and mine, on human dignity, on human rights, and human opportunity. That's what we're going to be voting for on this election day.
For Humphrey, this is a happy blend of politics and principle. Many liberals left the administration because of the Vietnam War. There's not much he can do about that. But before the war, the intellectuals were concerned about civil rights. It is still, he hopes, the kind of emotion-charged issue that could bring them back. David Shoemaker, CBS News, with the Humphrey campaign in Philadelphia.
Humphrey's running mate, Senator Edmund Muskie, today called for a bigger voice for government workers in their own affairs. Speaking to a convention of such workers in Las Vegas, Muskie proposed that they be given the right of collective bargaining and endorsed revision of the Hatch Act, which bars government workers from political activity.
Hut three! Hut, hut!
Okay, guys, here's the play. Buy one, get two free. Huh?
Buy one, get two free.
You know, the Bic School Special. You buy one Bic for 49 cents, you get two 19-cent Bics free. You save 38 cents. Huh?
Huh?
Oh, come on. You pay 49 cents for this Bic Fine Point, you get these two 19-cent Bics free.
Free. Get it? Got it. Two 19-cent Bic pens free. I save 38 cents.
Right, let's go.
Get the Bic School Special right away. Available only on this card.
Bic Bright's first time, every time.
Attention, businessmen. Ask your local office supply dealer about this Bic Pen Office Special and save money.
Chicago's Mayor Richard Daley declared today that demonstrators wanted and provoked the controversial confrontations with police during the Democratic Convention. At a crowded news conference, he again defended the police action, although conceding that some members of the department may have overreacted. Ike Pappas reports.
A good part of Mayor Richard Daley's press conference today was devoted to defending the police. Daley referred specifically to abuse police all over the country are taking at the hands of demonstrators.
The department in this country shouldn't have to be subjected to this kind of abuse and to this kind of action. What are we coming to as a society? What are we coming to as a country if policemen are treated the way they have been treated, not only in Chicago, but all over the country? on the grounds that the confrontation has to be made because we got to get the action. We got to get the violence. There has to be someone killed. And I think all you men miss the most important point of this convention. There was no one lost their lives in Chicago. All I did was what I thought was my duty under the Constitution and under my oath of office. I've never tolerated brutality to anyone. No one in our administration is for brutality, whether it's newsmen or whether it's protesters or who they are. But we are ready at this time, and we have been, to meet the terrorists who are going all over this country, creating incidents like they created in Chicago. And they should be exposed and uncovered, and we hope we can get the cooperation of the press and television and radio to do it.
The mayor once again charged that the news media failed to tell what he considers to be the full Chicago story.
I'm amazed at the distorted picture and twisted picture they gave. It amazes the people of America, and our mail shows it, and the mail of their station show it, and the mail of the newspapers show it.
Alderman Leon Dupre, a political opponent of Daley, was one of those who today criticized the mayor's report on the Convention Week disturbances, a report that Daley feels tells the whole story.
Very one-sided, highly biased, highly partisan, highly prejudiced document, very selective. It does not tell the full story. Any connection between it and the actual events is purely coincidental because from time to time the report coincides with what happens. But if we didn't have eyewitnesses, we didn't have photographs and sound recordings, we would not know from the report what happened. It really is a defense of violence. It's an incitement to further violence and obscenity. It condones the lawlessness in law enforcement.
While the statements were being made, the Yippies and others who participated in the Convention Week turmoil found other ways to express their feelings about the Daley report. Ike Pappas, CBS News, Chicago.
CBS News has learned that former Kentucky Governor Happy Chandler will not be George Wallace's running mate. Wallace had been expected to announce Chandler as his vice presidential choice at a news conference in Washington tomorrow. Late today, that news conference was canceled without explanation.
You people who want hours of relief from minor pains of arthritis and muscular aches, how many pain relievers do you know of that give you a second dose of pain relief before the first wears off? Measurin does, the first pain reliever with a built-in second dose. Measurin contains a double dose of aspirin in timed release form, so you take it just once every 8 hours instead of every 4. Convenient timed release Measurin with a built-in second dose for a long-lasting pain relief.
When you have acid indigestion, every second counts. So count on instant-acting Phillips tablets. Phillips tablets go to work in seconds. With one of the fastest stomach settlers ever discovered, each small Phillips tablet neutralizes more excess stomach acid than the leading antacid tablet that comes in a roll. So for fast relief from acid-upset stomach, when every second counts, count on instant-acting Phillips tablets.
French President Charles de Gaulle today condemned the Soviet occupation of Czechoslovakia, but put part of the blame on the United States and Britain for giving the Soviet Union control of East Europe at the 1945 Yalta Conference. Speaking at one of his twice-yearly news conferences, de Gaulle admitted the Soviet invasion had damaged his policy of seeking closer ties with Eastern Europe. But he insisted that Russia will not be able to continue its control of European satellites by force. During the 75-minute news conference, de Gaulle, who is 77, had frequent coughing spells, and newsmen got the impression that his abrupt ending of the news session was due to the strain that the coughing had induced. The administration has been trying to keep the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty from falling a victim to the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. As a part of this effort, Secretary of State Dean Rusk appeared today before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Marvin Kalb reports.
The Secretary spent 2 hours with the committee privately pleading for ratification of the treaty. Afterward, to reporters, he explained why he thinks the treaty is crucial.
We think that it is a good treaty. We think that the purpose of the treaty is very much in the national interest of the United States. If there were no Soviet Union, we would think this would be a very good treaty. So, as the President said the other day, we hope the treaty will be approved by the Senate at this session. Now, the atmosphere has been complicated by events in Eastern Europe, but we hope the Senate will take this under advisement and see what they can do about it during this session.
Rusk was then asked about reports of a Moscow-Washington deal on Czechoslovakia.
Well, these reports are so monstrous that one is puzzled about just how to respond to them. My guess is that this means we need some consulting psychiatrists in this business. There is no shred of an understanding, tacit or otherwise, between ourselves and the Soviet Union about spheres of influence. Let me repeat, there is no shred of truth in these ridiculous rumors that somehow there was some sort of an understanding between ourselves and the Soviet Union.
Rusk knows the treaty is in desperate trouble. Even if it is voted out of committee tomorrow, and this is far from certain, a major Senate floor fight looms ahead, this on top of the Fortis battle. Near election time, congressmen get nervous about supporting a treaty which smacks of cooperation with Moscow. Senator Mansfield says he has the votes for ratification, but tonight the treaty's chances look no better than 50-50. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, Washington.
Michigan's Republican Senator Robert Griffin today renewed his opposition to Abe Fortas as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and asked that confirmation hearings be reopened. Griffin called for examination of new charges that Fortas, while serving as Associate Justice, helped President Johnson draft appropriations legislation and write the 1966 State of the Union address. A congressional conference committee today agreed on the lowest foreign aid authorization in the history of the program, giving President Johnson a full $1 billion less than he asked. The compromise would authorize only $1,971 million for the program.
Scotland Yard was stymied, filled with bafflement. A gang of crooks had hijacked a whole truckload of Kent. They searched the country over, couldn't find a clue. So they called Detective Stone. He'd know what to do. Stone went to a thieves' den and slyly prowled about. Then he stopped and smiled and pointed two men out. His sidekick said, "Stone, how can you be sure they stole the Kent?" "Elementary, my dear sidekick. They're the ones who look content."
He solved the case.
The taste of Kent.
He solved the case.
Oh, the taste of Kent.
He solved the case.
Here's the taste of Kent.
More taste, fine tobacco.
The moral is you simply can't disguise the enjoyment you get from Kent. King size or 100s. Both have the best taste in filter smoking today. To a smoker, it's the taste of Kent in any length.
The opening of schools in some parts of the country has been marked by disputes and teachers' strikes. Today, for the second year in a row, an opening day teachers' walkout hit New York City, which has the nation's largest school system. The main issue is how much local community control should be allowed under a city school decentralization program. The dispute closed most but not all of the city's 900 schools, and we get more on the story from CBS News correspondent Morton Dean.
This is a community school, and this school belongs to you, your mommy, and your daddy. And we intend to give you the education that you have been robbed of for years. And we're not through. We promise you everything and we'll deliver. But it's your school. You go into that building and be proud when you walk in there. You understand? Come on, sweetheart.
It is ironic, a good example of just how complicated this situation really is, that while most of the city's 1 million pupils will not be taught, there are students, there are teachers in the classrooms here in the Ocean Hill-Brownsville district of Brooklyn, the very district where the dispute began. The slow process of attempting to decentralize control of New York City's massive school system has been fitful. More than a year ago, this district was chosen to experiment in governing the affairs of its neighborhood schools, including the election of a community school board. The board's decision to dismiss and replace 10 teachers and to open on schedule no matter what has enveloped the city in a bitter feud, not uncommon in other big cities, involving militant neighborhood groups, the city government, and the United Federation of Teachers. The president of the teachers' union, Albert Shanker, was jailed last year for leading a law-breaking strike over contractual issues.
Who in the world would benefit if we decided to reopen the schools and to allow mob rule to reign in New York City and to allow local groups to push teachers out even though they've been declared innocent by a judge? I think we have to weigh the alternatives. I think a strike is a very bad thing, but worse than that is to give in to this particular type of pressure, because ultimately that would be the destruction of our school system.
The community board's administrator, career teacher Rhodey McCoy, has rejected the superintendent of schools' directive that the dismissed teachers be reinstated. He admits to some deep-seated community antagonisms.
Has this become a case of black against white? Do you see this as purely a racial conflict or mainly a racial conflict?
I've been trying my best to stay away from that kind of answer, even that kind of question, but there have been enough instances to put in the mind, implant in the mind of both the governing board and the community, and I must be honest at this point in my own mind that this is one of the most important aspects of it. It is a racial issue.
But today's events were calm compared to what occurred last spring when the dispute developed, and the teachers were prevented from entering district schools.
Could you please move the barricade?
Extremists flocked into the district, and for the final 6 weeks of the spring term, classes were disrupted. Among the pickets today were 2 of the teachers involved in the original dispute, Fred Nauman and Cliff Rosenthal. They had been charged by the community board with attempting to undermine the decentralization project. Some of their colleagues had been charged with inefficiency in the classroom.
Well, what would it mean to you personally if you were not allowed to return to PS 271, the Ocean Hill-Brownsville district?
I would feel very bad for the democratic process. We were cleared in a fair trial, and the results of this trial were made public, and we should be allowed to go back to our classes.
Well, are you truly interested in going back to teach at PS 271, or is this something you have to do now because the future of the union is perhaps at stake?
I think it's both, certainly. We are interested. This was our idea from the first, to maintain what was our right, a job in the school. Of course, it's become a much bigger thing now. It's become an issue of not only teacher rights and human rights, but also of a labor union's right.
More than a few parents could care less about who was involved in the hassle and were angrily concerned only that their children receive an education.
I don't care if the UFT, Afro-America, or what. If they're licensed by the Board of Education, they can teach my kids. And as far as me keeping them out when they are qualified teachers in the school, I'm not going to do it.
It would be foolish to speculate just when this strike will end, but it's easy to speculate that this controversy, a nationwide controversy about how much control local residents should have over their neighborhood schools, is one that will continue to breed the kind of politics and pressure and potential for violent unrest that has been found here in New York City this September. Morton Dean, CBS News, Brooklyn.
Prices were higher on the New York Stock Exchange today for the 6th trading session in a row. Volume was 11,900,000 shares. The exchange index gained 5 cents.
Ever wonder why you feel so tired? Well, this could be the answer. Iron-poor blood cells like these. If that's so, take Geritol to build more blood cells, better shape, rich in iron like these. Now, the great majority of tired people don't feel that way because of iron-poor blood, and Geritol won't help them. But millions do have iron-poor blood, and you could be one of the many who are tired for that very reason and need Geritol. Just 2 Geritol tablets give you twice the iron in a pound of calf's liver. Geritol iron enters your bloodstream fast, carrying strength throughout your whole body. So, for iron-poor tired blood, take Geritol and feel stronger fast.
Honey, it's 3 in the morning.
I can't sleep.
When simple tension keeps you awake, take Sominex as directed for 100% safe sleep.
Take Sominex tonight and sleep safe and restful. Sleep, sleep, sleep.
Take 2 Sominex tablets and sleep.
In Paris today, Hanoi's chief spokesman at the peace talks spoke of as realistic former U.S. Ambassador Arthur Goldberg's call for an unconditional bombing halt in North Vietnam. The spokesman warned, however, that a simple bombing halt will not be enough to ensure peace, but that all U.S. spy flights, naval raids, and artillery attacks against the North must also end. In Vietnam, U.S. helicopter gunships, armored personnel carriers, and fighter bombers teamed up with South Vietnamese infantrymen over the weekend in 2 battles near the provincial capital of Ban Mae Thuot. 94 communists and 3 South Vietnamese soldiers were killed in the fighting. In Da Nang, a general court-martial today sentenced Marine Lance Corporal Denzel Allen to life in prison for the murder of 5 South Vietnamese civilians. Allen, who is 20, comes from Lebanon, Indiana. The court's verdict is subject to automatic review. For a number of months, the Defense Department quietly has been running a program aimed at preparing servicemen for civilian life. There have been 13,000 graduates in the last 6 months, and another 13,000 currently are enrolled at 240 military installations. CBS News correspondent Bruce Morton reports from Fort Lee, Virginia.
These men are soldiers. They train like soldiers, climb obstacles like soldiers, take orders like soldiers. But thanks to an unusual Defense Department program called Project Transition, some of them are leading a double life. For half of every working day, 4 hours, these soldiers are learning a civilian job. This group is taking a course sponsored by the Humble Oil and Refining Company. Graduates will get jobs as service station dealers or managers. They work and they criticize each other.
Okay, how about checking on the hood? Did he show the customer the dipstick?
I don't believe he did, Andy. I noticed he checked the battery first, which is what he was supposed to do, and then checked the oil, but I don't believe he did show the customer.
Why would you check the battery first?
Well, like we said in class, you should check the battery first. For one reason, you can locate the dipstick. You don't have to know where it is.
This kind of on-the-job training is only part of Project Transition. There's more to employability than windshield cleaning or dipstick finding. The process for those GIs who want it begins before that, with counseling.
We have developed here, into this area, what they call the pre-apprenticeship training program.
When a soldier has 6 months left to serve, he has a chance to meet a counselor. The soldier talks about what he wants to do and his qualifications to do it. The counselor talks about what training is available.
Probably need to learn how to read blueprints that tell you how to form different parts in a machine shop. You'll need mathematics.
To find just the outside area, the amount around, the perimeter. We add the sides. 2, 4, 6, 2 more, 8, 4.
Soldiers who lack a high school diploma can spend 4 hours a day working toward one. Others can enroll in a variety of job training courses, some taught by private industry, others by the Army.
All right, you give me the command. What do you want me to do? Here. Take. Away.
This course in law enforcement is run by the local police. Weaponless control, taught by a physical education professor from a local college, is part of the course. There are some dropouts from Project Transition courses, but not many. Fort Lee's Director of Education is Leland Slayton.
You've had about 700 people who volunteered for training of one sort or another. How many have actually stayed with it, actually turned up for that first class?
We have had approximately 400 of these, 390 area.
So 65% or so?
5% of them, yes.
How about once they're in the course?
Once they're in the course, very favorable. We've had practically no dropouts in them.
Is it fair to consider this a program for the hardcore unemployed?
Not at all, you see, because many of these men are retiring from service. They certainly could not be classed among the hardcore. And then many of the young men themselves have just never been exposed to the labor market. That is, they came in service at 18 years of age. They are now 20 years of age or so, and they've just never had the opportunity to go out looking for a job, nor have they had any training for it.
What about Negro participation?
Negro participation has been very good. However, here again, we're not looking just at the Negro soldier. We're looking at the soldier. There is no difference in the Army. A man is a soldier, and that's all.
So far, 20 private firms have joined the project here at Fort Lee. Roughly 200 have nationwide.
Is this is this a more expensive way to recruit and train people? You've got to come out here and set up one of these remote units to hold classes in, for example.
No, as a matter of fact, this is a very economical way for us to do training. You're right. We do move the portable classroom in instead of doing it in one of the company classrooms that we already have throughout the country. On the other hand, in the normal program that we conduct, we would be paying a dealer a salary while he's in the training program. Here he is continuing in the pay of the military service, so this is a very attractive way for us to conduct this training.
Remove the magna belt from the machine and replace it with a test signal belt. Caution. Do not record on or erase the test signal belt.
IBM is another firm offering training under Project Transition. The job candidates in this and other programs are pre-screened to meet company standards, something which illustrates one danger in the program: cream skimming by industry, with the jobs going to the most qualified men, the ones who'd have the least trouble getting placed anyway. Project officials say the remedy is more industry participation, offering more jobs at more different levels of skill. IBM trains dictating machine repairmen, a job which the company men say can lead all the way to a carpeted office with a vice president sign on the door. Project Transition is still relatively small. It has counseled 160,000 servicemen, trained 26,000. It's a long way yet from producing a job for every returning serviceman, but it has produced jobs for some. It has won a measure of acceptance from private industry. And as one soldier said, it's a lot better learning something than just sitting around counting the days till you're discharged. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Fort Lee, Virginia.
Lieutenant Arthur Ashe, who has a certain civilian skill, defeated Tom Ocker of the Netherlands this afternoon in men's tennis singles at Forest Hills. The first champion of U.S. Open tennis, because this was the first U.S. Open tournament, and the first American to win the American singles title since Tony Tabbert did it in 1955. Bud Collins described the final point of the 5 sets for CBS Sports.
There it is. Arthur Ashe, Richmond, Virginia. Is the champion of the United States in every respect.
Tennis, whose gentlemanly traditions have led to a certain amount of gentlemanly confusion over the years, has been further confused this year by the decision to let professional players play amateurs and to set up even some other classifications. Ocker is something called a registered player, halfway between a pro and an amateur, a classification not accepted in other activities where the taking or not taking of money is a key distinction. Ocker gets $14,000 prize money because Ashe is a complete amateur. Lieutenant Ashe gets the cup and $15 for his day's expenses. That's the news. This is Harry Reasoner for Walter Cronkite. Good night.
Won't get you vitamins skipping lunch.
Well, I'll have to grab a bite later.
It's past lunchtime.
I want to finish before I wash up. What's a mother to do?
Serve them Total, the vitamin cereal, the only leading cereal with a whole day's vitamin supply. 1 bowl, 1 ounce, gives you 100% of every minimum daily adult vitamin requirement now set by the U.S. government.
You get your vitamins, come what may, when a bowl of Total starts your day.
Imagine a cake and frosting bright with natural orange flavor. It happened when Sunkist found a way to coax the natural flavor from fresh orange peel. And Betty Crocker found a way to put it in a rich, moist cake and a creamy, smooth frosting. First and only dessert mixes bright with natural Sunkist orange flavor. New Betty Crocker Sunkist orange cake and frosting mixes. When the flavor's this exciting, you can bet it's Betty Crocker.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Harry Reasoner substituting for Walter Cronkite.